I have a very special video for all of you today. I did an email interview with the lead developer of Beyond Skyrim Expedition to Atmora. The discussion was purely on the lore of Atmora and the setting of the game. In Beyond Skyrim Expedition to Atmora, you will embark on a journey to the lost continent alongside the crew of the expedition and will uncover the final days of Atmora, the birthplace of humanity from which countless legends have descended. This is an old school RPG with expansive branching quests. It will take everything to help the expedition to succeed on the northern shores. Your actions will decide the fate of many and whether anyone makes it home alive. From the written lore of Atmora, we know the following. It was from here, the continent to the north of Tamriel, the first humans arrived. In the Merithic era, Nords migrated from here to build the city of Sarthal in Skyrim. In the late Merithic era, the ancient Atmoran king Ysgramor fled Atmora and is generally regarded as the first human ruler of Skyrim. The ancient Nordic Totemic Religion is based on Atmoran tradition of animal worship. And finally, the official imperial records claim a certain Tibersiptim was Atmoran. Some myths say he sailed to Skyrim in the Second Era when he spent his youth. Apart from all of this fascinating lore, what interests you personally about the forgotten country of Ysgramor and those legendary 500 companions?
A lot of what we know about Atmora is shrouded in myth and legends. That's what originally drew me to this project. As a fan of mythology and a history nerd, I am a sucker for these unexplored bits and bobs. Over on Atmora, we are trying our hardest to lure the player in with questions. What was the civil war that Ysgramor supposedly fled from? Why has the continent grown colder over the millennia? Who are the frozen bearded kings that Vivek supposedly saw? As a writer, there is a lot of fun to be had when dealing with these mysteries, as long as you're careful not to reveal too much. Everyone who has read a story by Lovecraft, or who has delved into the real-life stories of the Franklin expedition, knows that an Arctic landscape far away from safety and civilization is a great backdrop for unexplainable horrors.
Tell us about the world space of Beyond Skyrim Atmora and what can a player expect to see when exploring this large continent? What are the geographical features of this unknown landmass?
The playable space of Beyond Skyrim, Expedition to Atmora makes up a portion of the southern coastline of Atmora, and at the moment, the entire map is larger than that of Skyrim's base map. However, there is one key difference. The playable space will be that of a donut. The middle section of the map is an impassable glacier. While the player may be able to find a glacial nook to squeeze through, the majority of travelling will be done by going around the so-called Shivering Glacier. The landscape itself will vary from a coastline riddled with shipwrecks and corpses of unfortunate souls that deemed themselves to be explorers and adventurers, to barren wastes filled with ice and frost, to the haunted Icewood and the threat of the Old Man of the Forest, to the valleys of Nordgar, where dragons roamed as freely as clouds roam the skies. Atmora will be a rather large area with many nooks and crannies to explore during the day, when the body of the last Dragonborn can still know the warmth of the Everlight. However, when the sun sets and darkness engulfs the continent, the player would do best to either seek shelter in the many great ruins, or to flee and return to the expedition camp to rest in the comfort of a bonfire, enchanted to keep the cold at bay by one of the more powerful scholars this side of the Imperial Palace.
The Pocket Guide to the Empire, 3rd edition, suggests that as of the 3rd era, Atmora is a place of permanent winter with little life and no sign of human habitation. Beyond Skyrim, Atmora is set in 4E201, and the big question is, will we find humans still living in the frozen continent?
Life and death are rather flexible terms on Atmora. The ancient Atmorans still roam their old homes and temples, but they do not resemble the living, breathing creatures they once were. Cut them down, and they will reawaken shortly thereafter. Those that were cursed by their king's bidding are not allowed to die, and the oaths of the old continent continue to bind them until the end of time. While they can still feel the cold, the hunger, the starvation, the pain of their necrotic and overexerted muscles, the Atmorans have endured for the 4,000 years that passed between the flight of the 500 and the reawakening of Alduin near the throat of the world, and they will continue to do so. The members of the Tyrrhenius expedition will come face to face with not only the Atmoran people, the kinsmen of figures like Ysgramor, Mirek and Morokay, but also the giants that once called this place home and the titans of old that loom on the horizon. Atmora was once a continent where only the strong and the cruel could prosper.
The book Songs of the Return in Skyrim talks about a coastal city called Jylkurfyk, and in your CMC 2023 showcase video, the narrator says Jylkurfyk has become a symbol of danger, a place of grotesque tragedy. What is the status of Jylkurfyk in the 4th era?
Jylkurfyk was once known as the Star of the South, the trading hub and de facto capital of the southern shores of Atmora. It used to be a place where wave crashers and fin whittlers sold meat and bones, where blood takers and ice fleeters pawned off their gold and silver, where the elves of Nirn were fed to their ancestor in an attempt to weaken the old knocker by life graspers, where the great rune whisperers studied the ancient sagas and legends. It was a place for all to gather, the clever, the cruel, the powerful, and those destined for divinity. But where such many fates meet, things can take a turn for the worse. In the waning days of the Merethic era, when the cold started to infect the minds and hearts of the Atmorans, one person refused to bow down to the might of nature, and who rebelled against time itself. He chose to defy his fate and that of the world, seeking to obtain timelessness. However, such a boon is taken and never given. In his conquest for might and power, one man took whatever he could, setting the oceans on fire, striking down the clouds from the heavens to feast on them, and destroying mountains and glaciers to take what was hidden beneath. For a man to truly become great, he must rise above the divine. When all was said and done, he left his throne at the highest peak of Jylkurfyk and vanished north. When the player first washes up on the harbour of Jylkurfyk, they will find that the city is home to the oath-bound Atmorans fighting as they are bound to do. These Atmorans once were kinholders, sea singers, and ember brethren who were drawn to the ruins of Jylkurfyk by the call of the Alrichter. But since his departure, the city has been the lair of something worse.
So in the 4th era, there are no human settlements in Atmora, correct?
Yes, there are no conventional human settlements on Atmora. They all fell more than 4,000 years ago to war, to frost, and to the will of fate. As such, there is no place to call home, and no place to call safe. The player and the members of the expedition must not only build shelter, but also secure and defend it against the hordes of oath-bound Atmorans, frost-wearing demons, and the anomaly known as the Frostfall itself.
I assume the player will find ancient towns and cities in Atmora that are now in ruins, just like what we see in Labyrinthian or Sarthal when playing the Elder Scrolls V Skyrim. What can a player expect to see and find in these Nordic ruins? Maybe the player finds ancient artifacts or notes written by people in the Atmoran language, or a language that resembles Dwazul.
The ruins of once great Atmora hold many secrets and tragedies for the player to uncover. Beyond Skyrim, Expedition to Atmora plans to feature fewer dungeons than Skyrim, but the dungeons and ruins that we have will be larger than what the player may expect. For reference, the ancient city of Bromjunar that the player can explore on the northern shores of Tamriel will be about the size of many Atmoran ruined settlements, with temples easily eclipsing the tombs of Sarthal and Bleakfall's Barrow. What we lack in numbers, we will make up for in size. A great number of dungeons will find use in quests, of which we plan to feature a large amount. Speaking of which, you can expect quests to be an unfitting term for the stories we tell on Atmora. Adventures is a better word for them, as a great number of Atmoran quests will be the variety that you stumble upon in the wild. We have no plans to feature rumors at this stage, meaning that the player will be encouraged to traverse the lost continent on their own, exploring. It will be up to them to discover the old secrets and sagas, and to avoid falling, like many, to the eternal frost.
We have read that in Atmora, grand temples were built to honor and appease dragons. There was a tradition of dragon priests demanding tribute that can set down laws and codes of living that kept the peace between dragons and men. Can we expect to find ruined temples haunted by Draugr and undead dragon priests, or maybe something more sinister?
Unlike Skyrim, the totemic cults and faiths of Atmora had a long history not only with the land itself, but all that dwelled on it. A great number of these cults built temples not to appease some dragon, but as a monastery to their cause, or as a place of worship, or to entomb and remember their old secrets and rites. The dragon cult of Atmora was one with comparatively few temples, as it operated differently to the sect found on Skyrim. The dragon cult of Atmora was composed of mighty warriors and clever men that mediated between the mortal and immortal inhabitants of Atmora, using force and the Thuum if necessary. As such, many of those that would be known as dragon priests were wandering warriors, or proud and powerful jarls that secure their mead halls, or wisdom seekers that hid within the depths of their temple unless provoked. I should mention that there are no conventional Draugr on Atmora, as the fall of Atmora predates the widespread use of Draugr as tomb guards.
Will we find any evidence of people following the ancient Nordic Totemic Religion in Atmora? What role did religion play in the lives of Atmorans? Will we also find shrines in the frozen wastes and ruins?
The center point of Atmoran mythology and their folklore are the great heroes and kings that once walked the world. What is known as gods and divines for the Tamrielic people of the modern time were powerful kings and warriors for the Atmoran people. It was understood that these heroes were shapeshifters, or that they could use magic to magically shape their appearance. The shape that they would wear in battle and war was thought to be that of an animal. Over the millennia, the myths of the war were mostly forgotten or changed through oral traditions, leaving behind the tales of great ones and their feats that were associated with their respective animals. For the Atmorans, the totemic gods are still alive on Nirn, but they have long since isolated themselves. It is understood that if a warrior is powerful enough, they can escape or prolong death, which is what these great heroes have done. The Atmorans would find comfort in this fact and pray to these great heroes in their daily lives, as their magic still engulfs the world and keeps it livable and comparatively safe. The cults, however, saw that this magic was a feeble one, and they found out that through strange rites, this magic could be strengthened. As such, each totemic cult thought of themselves as being the servants of these great kings, and they reflected this in their rituals and deeds. Each cult believed that they have a divine duty to make sure that the magic that flows through Atmora stays active and true. The Atmorans sought to honor the great warriors through murals, architecture, and art. Small shrines were often carved from materials associated with the god. Small pendants and necklaces were created and sold, and warriors kept a small carving with them as a good luck charm. The depiction of the god would vary in style, as the different regions of Atmora had different details regarding the appearance of the gods. The owl was sometimes depicted as a barn owl, sometimes as a great horned owl, and later on as a snow owl. They'd build great temples that incorporated the animal themes through their architecture, and statues depicting the old heroes, either in their human form or their totemic animal form, were also seen regularly.
In your CMC 2023 showcase video, we listened to a song called Song of the Winds. What language is that sung in? Is it a language the player can expect to listen in-game?
The Song of the Winds is a piece written in the ancient Atmoran tongue. Beyond Skyrim, Expedition to Atmora has created a custom-constructed language with its own words, grammar rules, and system of writing. The player will be able to find carvings in the same language on their travels, and we will provide them with the means to either translate the ancient sagas by themselves or employ the help of a linguist that set out from Tamrielic shores alongside the expedition.
In your website, there's a line that says, "Endure conditions beyond imagining and turn ancient magic to your advantage." Can you reveal what this ancient magic is?
The magic that envelops Atmora is that of elder times. It can be powerful beyond belief, but be cause for terrible things if wielded in lesser hands. The player may come across fragments of the Atmoran's might and use it to survive another day.
In Beyond Skyrim Atmora, what is the prime objective of the player? Why are they visiting this lost continent?
That will be up to you, the person playing the game. Whether it is to search for answers about the history of the world, the uncovering of powerful and ancient artifacts, or the joy of struggling against the unwavering and eternal frost of Atmora, the player will have the opportunity to travel beyond the horizon and to see what lies on the other side. The question is, though, are you prepared to face what you will find on your travels? The night is long and cold on Atmora, and there will not be a second ship conveniently sailing back south. Getting to Atmora is the easy part. Surviving long enough to flee the continent is an entirely different beast.
Wake up! We are here. Why are you shaking? Are you freezing? Are you okay? Wake up! We are in Atmora. So, is your mind blown by what you just heard? Are you ready to go on an expedition to Atmora? Some of the answers shock me, especially when I realized the only humans the expedition will find is the undead. The undead are the living in Atmora. I'm yet to wrap my head around that concept. My mind is blown. Anyway, I asked a few follow-up questions to Hendrus and he answered them too. One was about the Terenius expedition. My question was, will the player have companions as part of the expedition group? If yes, are these companions created by the Atmora team? So that makes sense. Hendrus did speak about a linguist being a companion, also an eminent scholar from Tamriel will be a companion. So essentially a fun, intellectual, adventure-seeking motley crew going to Atmora. I think this will be amazing. I also asked him if the game will start at Atmora or will the player have some time in Tamriel, say in Skyrim or Solstheim, where the expedition team will have to prepare for the journey, maybe raise funds, recruit companions, etc. I like that. This is hardcore. Once you're done with your business in Tamriel, you're off and you are alone until you solve all the mysteries of Atmora, and only then you can come back. I feel Beyond Skyrim Expedition to Atmora will be an Elder Scrolls game unlike anything we have ever experienced so far. For that, I applaud and salute the vision of Hendrus and his team. It is going to be more of a survival / adventure / explorer / horror / fantasy game, and I cannot wait. That was a lore focused discussion on Beyond Skyrim Expedition to Atmora. I would love to read all your thoughts, comments and excitement. I hope Hendrus may be able to answer some of your questions. I shall see you again next month for another Beyond Skyrim video. May the divines watch over you.